Maybe so. Welcome to the Get Up Girl podcast. We're here live on Halloween. Happy Halloween. Happy Dia de los Muertos as well.
Yes.
This is our Halloween chat. And before we started recording, I was like, okay, I got my girl Connie Dunn here. And I was talking to my gal Salome, and she's like, we got to have a Halloween show. You got to talk about ghosts and spirits and entities. She's like, who do you know that would want to talk about ghosts? And then, like, in 2 seconds, I'm like, Connie. So I started texting her. Everybody, welcome to the show. This is Connie Dunn. She is a dance teacher at one of the local high schools here in Los Angeles. I know a lot of you listen all over the world. But she and I met through a couple classes. And so we share the commonality of the conversation of what we're going to talk about today. And I'm excited because, Connie, I'm ready to come out of the closet, so to speak, about talking about this. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
And I know there's more out there. So anybody who's listening, if you're like, okay, this is crazy, just listen in, lean in. And if you're like, oh my gosh, this is so me, perfect, turn it up. So Connie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's dive right in. Okay. Because I know you're a dance teacher, but we're not going to talk about dance today. We're going to talk about some other Halloween stuff. And what are your gifts when it comes to being aware of entities, spirits, ghosts, beings without a body? What are your gifts?
Yes. What I have acknowledged in myself as far as my gifts with entities is concerned is to be aware of their presence. I get messages from entities sometimes through images, sometimes through other people. People will come to me and say something very curious. And as of most recently, I have the entities actually rattling things in my kitchen, shutting doors, and making themselves very, very noticeable to me.
You told me that you have a great ghost story. Is this what's going on right now?
Actually, yes, it's happened in the last few weeks. It doesn't have the most exciting finish. It's a little more somber, but it's an example of why I am very open to receiving messages from entities and to allow the entities to speak to me in this way. I have frequently in my life resisted the messages that come through listening to entities come into my space. And it was a little bit scary for me, to be honest, for a really long time. And I would just say, no, go away. And I always knew somehow, though, that I was able to either receive those messages or push them away. So more recently, I've decided to allow them to speak to me. And so when people come into my life and they have something important that they either need to be doing, or if they have someone, a loved one, a deceased loved one that wants to watch over them or help them with any particular gifts that they might have, they come to me and talk to me because I'll listen. And so what happened recently is that I have a former student. She is a dancer and she's in high school now. She has a very, very intense family life. A lot of different intense experiences have happened with her, and her grandfather has passed. So we're sitting there having a conversation at the table this summer, and we found out that Grandpa has been trying to talk to her. So we're about getting ready to cook something, and she and I are in the kitchen, and there's this big, thick glass. In fact, it was exactly something like this, so this is a really thick candle glass, right? And so it was sitting near the sink, but not on the very edge. So it was sitting near the sink, and it was far enough in so that it wouldn't fall, right? We turn around, we start doing some things with our back to the sink, and we hear a big crash. And it's clearly in the room. So we stop, we look at each other, and I walk over to the sink, and I find that this glass is broken in 2 clean pieces in the sink. And I thought, well, that's really strange. It wasn't anywhere near the edge. And then I take a look at Jen, and she has these dog tags on. And I said, wait, is that your grandfather's dog tags? And she says, well, it has his name on it. He was, very intense personality, and, kind of a sort of a tougher, gang background and what have you. So
Mhm.
he always had big messages to say. And so I said, Jen, is this your grandfather in the room? Just ask me, is it light for you to know that this is your grandfather? And she looks at me and says, yes. And so we proceed to have this conversation, and I start teaching her what I know about the spirit world and about entities. And she was really willing to receive those messages and understand what she was faced with and also her gifts with it. And so we had this big long conversation, and time passed. A few weeks later, I'm sitting in the living room and I hear the silverware rattling in my kitchen. I look up, I look around, there's nothing there. And I go into the kitchen and, nothing's been moved around, but I heard the rattling several different times. I call up Jen. And so what it started to look like was a pattern where Grandpa was contacting me whenever Jen needed help.
Mhm.
And so, or when he wanted me to look after her.
Mhm.
Now, enter mom. Mom has not been in her life very consistently over the course of years. And so, I think Jen has always needed a little bit of momming. So I played that mom character for her. So the sad part of the story is that another couple of weeks passed and I heard the silverware rattling again in the kitchen. And I went in and I got a pretty visible, blurred, but really interestingly clear image of Grandpa asking for my attention. And it was 8 o'clock at night. This happened a few days ago.
Mhm.
And I happened to be busy working on a paper. So I said, can we talk later?
Mhm.
And we'll enter into the conversation about when we allow entities to
Yeah.
talk to us and when we don't. So I said, can we talk later? And I understood that it was a yes. So I walked away, the energy stopped. And that night, and I wanted to contact her, but I didn't for some reason and fell asleep. 2 in the morning, she contacts me and tells me that her mom had been shot. And I just completely stopped and I said, oh my God, I ignored a message.
Mhm.
And he had wanted me to reach out to her. And the funny thing is that she was shot at the time that he had come to me.
Yeah. Wow.
So for me, that was a huger message more than ever that I need to step up and
Mm.
allow myself to hear more messages. And that was one of many items that had happened over the course of, the last few weeks. And it seems like in this time of year, during this mid-season, end of harvest, which is
Mhm.
what we're at, the 6 weeks into fall, the energy changes. And some would say that this is the portal where the veil between the worlds is thinnest.
Mm.
And so we actually have the ability to hear more entities come into our space and affect us or bring us messages. And most of the time, I think a lot of people that I know just get scared of it and they shut that down. But
Yeah.
what I receive is that this is a great time to hear those messages and to receive whatever messages are coming in for you in the change of that season.
Mhm.
So,
Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool that you're allowing more of it, like to say, to step it up. When I was a young
mhm,
girl, my gifts are that I just know, Connie. I don't
mhm,
really see things. Sometimes I'll hear things, but I just know. And it's
right.
hard as a young girl to explain and articulate, especially in the 80s when it was like, you just listen and do what you got to do, to articulate, like, I just know, trust me here. And so what happened was I was told, there's nothing there, Joanna. There's nothing there. And when I talk to parents and they say, my kid keeps coming into my bedroom and they're afraid of the dark, they're afraid of the closet, they're afraid of their bed. And I just keep telling them that there's nothing there. Now, what happens when you're doing that is you're invalidating their gifts and what they're aware of. They're actually like have these superpowers. So I call it superpowers now, Connie. I'm like, I have freaking superpowers. But after a record player, Connie, of there's nothing there, go back to bed, there's nothing there, I started to believe that I was crazy, right? And I'm like, okay, there's nothing here. But Connie, Many nights did I sleep with the covers like this, and I could not sleep. And I couldn't see anything, I couldn't hear anything, but I just knew something was there. And they wanted to talk to me. They just were bugging the hell out of me. And so I wanted to have these conversations for parents that have kids like this, people that grew up go, oh my gosh, I had that too. But we were taught that there was nothing there. And Connie, I turned it off. I turned it off and I shut myself off and I became very depressed, very sad, very like just diminished, and my light dimmed. And as soon as I started to learn this, just maybe 5 years ago, I started to light up again, Connie, because I'm aware now. I'm like, my light is brighter now. And last thing I want to share, and then I want to get your opinion on this or your point of view. Most, when I share with people, they're like, oh, I don't want to know, I'm afraid. We think it's like a movie. We think it's like The Exorcist. We think that they're all scary. And beings without bodies, all types, are just like people. There's ones that you like, Connie, and then there's some people that you don't like, you know? And if people are going to be in your house, they could stay, and sometimes it's time for them to leave. That's exactly what I see the entities now. I'll talk to them. I'm like, okay, now you got to leave because you're getting on my nerves, just like people. And when you remove that fear, we become power. But my whole life, Connie, I had no power. So what do you think about that?
Oh, I love that you're completely aware of this. I completely agree 100% with you. When I was little, I tried my best not to be invalidated by my environment because my environment definitely was not in support of what I was experiencing. In fact, crosses were thrown around my head and just
Wow.
pray, just pray,
Just pray. I heard that one, Connie. Yes. Okay.
And so that happened to me for a lot of the time. I was experiencing those closet entities and the bed entities and all the things that were trying to talk to me and communicate with me. But I also had, on the flip side, I had imaginary friends. And so that's a whole nother subject that I don't think too many of my friends when they were young looked at, because imaginary friends were entities as well. And they always kept me feeling like I was never alone, and I felt very comforted by them. But when those lights went out, you know, I had some strange experiences. I had strange dreams, and my mom wiled it away on I had too much sugar. And so she cut down my sugar, and there was all kinds of other things wrong with me. I was hypoglycemic. I needed to lose weight. I was eating too much sugar, like all these things, you know, pray more, you know, open your Bible. And, you know, and that whole time I was like, okay, mom. But I knew something was beyond that I wasn't able to access or articulate because I had no one around me to give me those words. And so I had always tried to tell my parents something was going on. And there were a couple of different nights when I just stood over their bed, you know, and stared at them. I don't know why I got out of bed. I don't know what happened, but I would just stand there and stare. And my mom was actually kind of freaked out by it, but she just put me back in bed. It was like something was literally trying to talk to her. And so I think they started to understand I was having this capacity with entities when my mom's best friend died. And I was at home. I was about 9 years old. And my dad came in the morning to wake me up. And so he shakes the end of my bed, and I sit right up, and he says, honey. And I said, I know what you're going to say, Dad. Mary died. And she died at 9:36 this morning. And he looked at me and he says, well, how do you know? And I said, she came to say bye to me. And it was right before I woke up. And so I think my family started accessing the idea, which the best they could. They did the best they could with that. They looked through the realm of angels, you know. So Connie's surrounded by angels, and she has her supports and her guardians to protect her. And I was okay with that because that's a whole nother thing that I follow and that I feel deeply connected to as far as the entity world is concerned, is angels. And so there's a point though that when you're 12, it's been said that you step into a different dimension. And so you can choose to keep that dimension open, and you can continue into your adulthood with that awareness and that knowledge. And I feel that I always wanted to, but I know that some of it, like you said, was dimmed as I got over 12 and 13 and 14 and started to get into my more hormonal states and second guess myself way more often.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't, again, like you said, same, almost same identical story here, Joanna,
Yeah.
that it wasn't until a few years ago that I really said, okay, this is something I require to embrace.
And it's actually fun and cool. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not afraid of it anymore. I'm not afraid of the dark. I used to be deathly afraid of the dark and like not
Right.
wanting to be alone. It's really interesting, Connie, because the Western culture has made this, I'm going to say they call you crazy. And
Yep.
that's why I'm saying I'm in the closet or I don't talk about it because of I find the people that I could talk about it with, because if not,
Hmm.
Joanna's crazy. And I'm like, oh, let me tell you, I thought I was crazy before. Now I actually feel sane. Now I feel real. Yeah, I felt all my whole 18 to whatever 30s was like, you're bipolar, you're crazy, you need medication. I'm like, I am not crazy. I'm not. I'm not. I'm
Right.
not. I just was aware of everybody's thoughts, feelings. I knew everything. I can walk into a room and tell you everything about a person. It was my Achilles. So with the
Hmm.
Western culture, Connie, we have demonized it. We have made it a
Yeah.
weird thing. But for thousands and thousands of years, indigenous people, and even now, on the planet, other cultures
Right.
s- are totally embrace it, right?
Right.
Let's say American Indian, indigenous culture, African Americans that are, in
Hmm.
Africa, and they dance with the spirits, and it's like, oh, we don't think
Hmm.
they're crazy, but if you're in the United States, then you're a weirdo. It's just I think, or I know, Connie, in the future,
Yes.
in the next 5 to 10 years, this conversation that you and I are having is going to be a lot more just every day, like the way we say namaste. If
Yep.
you said namaste 20 years ago at LA Fitness, they'd be like, okay, you're a hippie, you're a weirdo. Now you go to LA Fitness, the most, watered down fitness yoga class, and they say
Right.
namaste. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, we're okay. It's not as weird anymore. And I
Hmm.
know, and I want to have these conversations more, Connie, for the kids, for the adults out there that have suppressed it, to go, you're not crazy. We're out
Right.
here. We're
Right.
here. Find us. There's nothing wrong with you. You are actually power. You are amazing. You have an ability that, wow. And so, what do you think about the future with that, especially the Western culture?
Well, one of the ways I address it is by teaching and working with the youth. And I tell them all the time, I say, you're the future. And I'm also working with artists. And so I feel like our artist industry, as you know, they're very much more in touch with this other world. And I feel that a lot of times we channel our movement through dance, and we channel our emotions, and we channel other people's experiences of life through dance. And so I use that as an opportunity to talk about the the dancers staying open in that presence of expression and allowing that to continue to be the vehicle by which they express their stories through dance, and I'm assisting keeping that dimension open for them.
Mm.
And so I think that stepping into the future, these conversations, again, like you're saying, you're getting normalized, but they'll also be able to speak about them without that level of fear or intensity. They know that they have somebody there who's going to support the weird experiences they're having, and they'll feel safe talking about it, and will share that amongst their friends and then teach that to their kids. And that's where I see the future.
Gosh, I'm excited for that day. It be today or tomorrow or next year. I'm
Yes,
excited for that. To have this be a normal dinner conversation. Yeah.
right.
You talked about
Absolutely.
angels earlier,
Yes.
and
Hmm.
it's really cool how certain religions believe in angels, but then they don't
Hmm.
believe in other things, right? And it's like,
Hmm.
where is the line to say you're crazy? This doesn't exist. This exists. And I'm like, really think about it, everybody. What's the difference? And so
Hmm.
I've been studying, I've been really immersed in beings of light. Like,
Yes.
many times we think that the ghosts are just the scary bad ones.
Hmm.
And there's also, just like people, like Connie, I love you. You're a being of light with a body to me, right? And then there's people that I don't like. So just like beings, yeah, there's the
Hmm.
ones that are light and can help you and things of that nature. And then there's maybe the ones that are not so kind. There's
Right.
both.
Hmm.
And are you afraid of people? Like, most people go, well, I'm not afraid of people. I may not like all people. Same thing with entities. Talk
Right.
talk to all of them. The ones that you don't like, tell them to leave. The ones that you do like, ask them for help.
Hmm.
So let's dive into, if somebody's listening and going, okay, I have this, or my child has this. What is
Right.
like the first tip that they can do so they can start to go, okay, I'm open to this. Now, how do I talk to them?
Right. So, one of the things that I think is a good opener when you're asking a person what experiences they're having is to start with their body and
Mhm.
to say, so are you feeling cold? Are you feeling particularly hot? Are you getting chills up your spine? Are you feeling your stomach hurt? Are you having a ghost pain in your body? What is happening in you that seems very much not like you, that seems different, that seems out of place?
Not like you. Yep.
Yes. And then at that point, I'll ask, okay, what do you think that is? What do you think that's connected to? And what I do is I clear their slate. So I have an example today of that with one of my dancers who reached out to me because she was having some stomach troubles. And we went down the path of all of the things that she was experiencing. And then I said, do you miss your mom?
Hmm.
And she said yes. And so her mom had moved away, but she started to notice her connection, I think, to missing her mom through her body,
Hmm.
and it's an opening to her looking at what else is talking to her and what else is influencing what's going on that's not normal for her to be experiencing. So that's
Oh. Connie,
my
I love that you
idea.
talked about the body, because our body is an antenna. Think of it like a little
Yes.
antenna, and we're picking
Yes.
up other people's stuff, other beings without bodies stuff. And Connie,
Hmm.
before, like I said, the couple years ago when I am now aware of this, I
Right.
was sick all the time, Connie,
Right.
all the
Right.
time. It was like, well, what does Joanna have now? And I was embarrassed to tell people, like, I'm sick again. I don't feel good, because I was the antenna, Connie, picking up everything around me. If somebody felt it, I felt it, 10 times more. So with that being said, asking yourself, is this yours? You said it's not like you, right? Because we're picking up stuff. Are you there? You got something going on? You typing? Oh, there's Connie. Oh, we got a private chat. Oh, you can't hear me? No? Uh-oh. Check, check. Can you hear me? Nope. Nope.
It looks like I can't hear you suddenly. It's really interesting. Huh.
Okay, try it now. Am I better? Check, check. Am I better now? Can you hear me?
Oh, this is so funny. This is hilarious. Um, I'm not sure if you can hear me. Oh,
Okay, Connie, can you hear?
Ask for the awareness of what it is to show up and start looking in your environment for messages that match the energy, if that sounds correct.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you could hear that.
Yeah, I can hear that. Yeah. We might have to end this. Oh, that is so funny. Hey, leave this alone.
Okay,
If
awesome.
you're all still listening to me, thank you so much. You see how sometimes they like to play around with technology and it's funny. But I can understand how some can get some might get scared from this. You know,
Yeah, definitely. It can be scary to, oh, the audio might scare them.
I mean,
I was thinking that it might be scary for them to actually experience the awareness and to look for the signals. But if you're, I'm not sure if this was what you're asking, but if they're willing to have the awareness of what's going on with them,
Mhm.
then it's going to guide them to something greater that actually contributes to their life as well.
Mhm. Yeah, totally get it. Wow, this is good.
Okay,
Okay,
awesome.
Connie. Well, I'm gonna try one more. I'm gonna put the mic in. Check, check. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? No. Can you hear me now? No. Okay, Connie, let's do this. We're gonna jump back on. Ooh. We're just gonna have to end it right here.
Shall I exit out
Yeah.
here?
Yeah. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll come back because this is such a good conversation. I want to ask her one more question. Thank you so much.